Hi, Minh.
Minh, welcome back.
Hello, Eric. Hello, Jamie.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm really good.
Good.
Thank you. I'm really happy to talk to Eric again about something I want to bring up. And I think the previous two callers sort of make that transition for me.
Okay.
So what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I think, so the last time I talked with Eric, I think you said that if we believe in something that we don't have solid evidence, it can lead to magical thinking. It will open door to all the woo stuff. Is that what is right?
Absolutely. If you believe things without having any kind of evidence for them, then that does open the door to magical thinking. And it does potentially lead to you being taken advantage of. It leads to different things like woo, where you could fall down a whole bunch of different really rough rabbit holes that don't necessarily get you anywhere closer to reality. I agree with that.
Crystals are overpriced. They're just rocks. They're not magic.
And all of the other things. But
Yeah,
it sounds like you had something to say about it.
Yeah, I think, but because the thing is, to me, magical thinking, it's simply like, I'm sorry to bring this up, this person, I guess you don't like, but I mean, he makes sense to me to some extent, like Jordan Peterson when he said metaphysical substrate.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just seems like it's like a vehicle to explain something that we deal with, I guess, more effectively.
We deal with the stories. We deal with each other in the society that we're in by telling stories. And we can analyze those stories to determine a lot about what we care about as a society. But if there was a story about magic that was coming to mind, I would immediately jump to it, other than Harry Potter, something that's actually, Cinderella, some kind of, Aesop's fable, right? Mm-hmm. That if I were to pull those and talk about them, right, just because they're ingrained in our culture as stories that we recognize and our references that we have, that doesn't mean that any magic therein is real.
The value is the story, not the truth of the story.
The metaphysical substrate of that is something that we're drawing without coming to a conclusion that it is real, where there are things that we can learn from stories, but that doesn't mean that those stories are necessarily true.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with you. What I'm trying to say is that because in certain culture, like in my culture, our parents teach children, morality or values. They don't teach through logic, like the way humanists do. But, they tell the kids like some sort of folk tales or fairy tales, and the kids can think about the moral on their own. And it's had been successful like for a long time. So I guess that's why people still cling to that magical thinking, including myself.
So I
think it.
I don't think that's. I don't think you're describing magical thinking.
Yeah, and I can actually tell you, Minh, that I had a conversation where I was on the other side of the issue, right? Where I agreed a little more with you on this, and what I was arguing at the time was I was like 8 years ago. I was saying, hey, well, maybe people who are in religion just need it because not everybody has the tools to get there. And if they're being good people or living good lives, who are we to denigrate the fact that they're reaching to their Bible? And I was corrected in many, many ways, right? But one of those ways that I was corrected was I was told, Eric, how can you be so condescending? Right? How could any of us condescend so low as to assume that other people don't deserve to know the truth? Right? Or how could I assume that other people without that kind of magical thinking would be evil? Right? If I'm already assuming that magic is not real, then they're not doing it because of the magic. They're doing it because they're good people already. So pull the Bible out, pull the magical thinking out, they're still going to be good people.
Yeah.
Right? And lastly, when you hold on to good things for bad reasons, I'm going to touch back on that thing we said last time. And when you hold on to good things for bad reasons, you're leaving the door open for bad crap. Right? That's why I would say, I understand what you're saying. And I'm not saying that, telling your child a story so that they know not to cross the street without looking both ways, or, something to help them remember stranger danger. I get that that's useful, but to apply that to humanity is condescending, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I think the problem is that, like, sorry, I think not everyone on this planet can think in philosophical terms like you do. So the thing is, I think I admire you when you can confront some issue without resorting to some other story. But for other people, even including myself, it's easier when I observe something from another person and then I can relate it to myself better. So I guess that's why, fairy tales or fable tend to have something that, like, logical philosophy does not help me much.
Can I ask just a clarifying question? So you've said, like, fairy tale or story. Are you talking about believing that the events described in the story actually occurred?
Well, as an adult, I would say no, I don't. But as a kid, yes, I did believe it happened. Yeah.
So
but
like,
I mean, in the end, either a child or an adult, when I read the same story, I still draw the same conclusion about the lesson in the story. So
I would make the point that I don't think that what you're describing is magical thinking or even necessarily a flawed epistemology. So drawing lessons from stories or even drawing comfort from stories is not dependent on believing that the story is true. For example, I haven't seen it in years and I would probably get less out of it now, but there are Disney films and Pixar films that I found, watching them very, very cathartic and, informative and helpful or calming or, inspiring. But I don't believe that at one point in time, necessarily a clownfish with one fin smaller than the other was, captured by a diver off the coast of Australia, or that a bunch of tigers ruled over a realm where animals acted unnaturally, and then they acted out the play Hamlet. Like, I don't necessarily believe that. I don't believe that those events actually occurred somewhere in the savannah. However, I believe that the movie The Lion King was made and that I've seen it and that I can draw lessons from it. So magical thinking would be concluding that, oh, well, if a story makes me feel good, reality makes me feel good, therefore stories are true. And unreliable epistemology would be like, ooh, that sounds like a neat story, therefore it actually happened. But for you to say, well, thinking about things abstractly in a philosophical sense isn't a good way for me to learn or communicate lessons. I tell stories that include fairies or talking lions. I would say, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Minh?
Yeah, but I mean, like, how... The thing is, like, when you talk about epistemology, like, when people read something, resonate to them, they don't actually analyze the story to investigate if the story is correct or not. It seems like they search for something, and then somehow the story talk to them in a way that straight talking will not. And I can give you the example. Do I have time for that?
Well, actually, we're low on time, but can I possibly give you a quick example? We'll see if we can throw this together as quick as we can. Right? We've all seen The Wizard of Oz, I'm sure.
I did at one point. I know the story.
The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Sure. So in The Wizard of Oz, there are lessons that you can draw about the power of friendship, about the importance of home, about working together and overcoming your own fears and things like that. If I saw that and drew those lessons, I would not wonder, hey, can you fly on a broomstick? Are there witches that exist in the real world, and will water defeat them? Those kinds of things, right? I wouldn't assume that just because I drew those lessons about friendship and overcoming, adversity, that I have to believe in witches. Are you saying that?
yeah, so-
Are you saying that people have to decide? Oh well, witches and the whole thing are real?
That's I'm not really sure, because many people, I think, because when I came to this country, people who are religious in a strange way that I don't understand, because I grew up in a society where people around me who are into a lot of religious tradition, but they don't think about religion the way Western people do, because the religion, they always have something about moral, but it's never about cosmology. So they don't try to justify it with science or facts.
Yeah.
It's only about how to live your life in a way that is, ethical or meaningful to you, essentially.
We just want to take all the good parts and leave all the bad parts.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, and to be clear, I think that's a much better way of thinking about religion.
Okay.
Using it as, hey, like examining it as this is a proposed way to live your life, rather than this is a multiple times translated, multiple times copied, manuscripts mixed and lost and added description of the creation of the universe.
If I may,
yeah,
go ahead. If I may, I will give you one really quick example.
Sure, go ahead.
To show you, people tend to do better with some story. So when I went to college, a classmate of mine who was gay, and he struggled a lot, not with his identity, but with his family, because they did not accept him, and because his family was Christian. And on top of that, being gay, he's also an atheist. So when he confided in me about what happened, and he asked me, what should I do? And I told him, I don't have a solution, because I am gay too, but I never struggle with it. I'm fine with who I am.
I'm glad to hear that.
But if you want, I can give you this. Thank you. Yeah, but if you want, I can give you this parable I read in the Hindu tradition. Maybe it will help you, or maybe it's not. I know you're an atheist.
Well, let's right now we're building up to something. I bet you could have given us the parable probably in as quickly as it time to. Yeah, if you could say it quickly, good.
Yeah.
And then we're going to move on to the next.
And then
caller.
also, if there are citations for, I'm assuming it's from the Vedas, then that would be cool as well.
Oh, you want me to summarize the parable?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
What's the parable?
Yeah. So the parable is there was two monks who had lunch at a river, and one of them saw a scorpion fall into the water, and he picked it up, put it on the dry land, and the scorpion stung him, and then the scorpion fell into the water again, and he put it back on, and it stung him again, and it continued doing that, and then about a few times. So the other monk asked him, so why do you keep saving that scorpion even though you know it will sting you? And he said, the scorpion dharma is to sting anything it touched, but it's my dharma to save it. So I told that story to that classmate, and when a few weeks, a week later, he came back and he seemed to be better. And he told me that, I can relate to that story because I am, being gay is who I am. It's my nature. I cannot change it. Mm-hmm. And if my family cannot accept me, that's their nature too. And I will not bother it. I just live true to who I am.
I think that's a wonderful example, because I think what you've done is you've illustrated that we agree. Yeah. We're no longer arguing here. What we'll say is, you can draw lessons from fictional stories, but what we want to draw the line with is that you don't need to accept magic to be true to understand the lesson of a story or a parable. With that said, that is not magical thinking.
Yeah.
So while we agree, I will tell you that the original point of magical thinking is one that I'm glad we've worked through together, because I don't think you think it's magical thinking either. I think we may have just been talking past each other, and I'm glad that we've reached some kind of resolution.